I'm gonna go and just admit flat out that I've actually been done with the episode for a couple minutes. I just had to recover a little bit. Because I don't give a crap at this point. I'm already, you know, seriously and sincerely discussing and reviewing My Little Pony on the internet. I'm okay with admitting that that episode made me bawl. Holy crap. Purple. Purple. Okay, we're done. That's the review. We're done. Moving on. No, I like to decide those at the end. Lamentation, clearly. That's why I was crying. It was tears of pain. It was so horrible. Oh, God, guys. The pain. And then they go warp 10 for some reason. Just in My Little Pony. They said they go warp 10. Oh, I'm not frickin' hell. Oh my god. Okay. So. Yeah, where do we even start? I have a bunch of notes on this one. Like a page and a half. So some of you may have noticed our order. We do these as a little bit weird. That's because we do these in the Amazon order, which occasionally is production order. I say occasionally because there have been a few exceptions where it's not. But the reason I bring that up... Agreed, Imperial Structure. One of the reasons I bring that up is because this specific episode is the reason why so much of Season 5 has been out of order with regards to release order and production order. Why? Because they wanted this episode to go live on the 5th anniversary of the show. Hence, they shuffled the episodes around. Makes sense. Totally with it. But I just wanted to point that out. This was actually an anniversary episode, and it's kind of awesome for it. The whole season, ever since Season 4, we've had season-long arcs. And Season 5 is no exception to this. I've already talked about several of those arcs, and they will be coming up in the future as well. But the big arc, in my opinion, for Season 5 is cutie marks. Cutie marks have been Season 5's wheelhouse. And it's been a near constant topic, sometimes in the background, but also very, very much in the foreground. Indeed, a lot of the world building and the nature of how cutie marks work and why that works has been in this season, and will continue to be in this season in the future as well. I bring that all up, of course, because naturally this is the season where they decide to go ahead and have the cutie marks, or have the cutie mark Crusaders get their cutie mark. It just lines up perfectly. I counted 5 songs. We'll Make Our Mark, Prelude, The Vote, The Pony I Want to Be, Light of Your Cutie Mark, my personal favorite, by the way. That's the one that hits every time I watch this, and by every time I mean every time I hear it. I've heard the song. I actually downloaded the song because it's a damn good song. The Light of Your Cutie Mark is the one that starts off with Diamond Tiara. Diamond Tiara, this is not the way. You know, that one. It's got a kind of a ballad feel to it. Very good song. Anyways. And then We'll Make Our Mark Reprise, which is the finale song. 5 songs in this episode. Yeesh. So another Get Our Marks episode. What I have been told is that this episode was very interesting for people walking into it, because nothing indicated that this was the episode where they were going to get their marks. What I find amusing is, by simple cultural consciousness, most people, when they talk about this episode, say it's the episode where they get their cutie marks. Yes, McDud. So, it's in the title, dude. Yeah. It's just interesting to think about that. That's always one of those things, right? You know, we know certain things about fiction that really were not were not designed to be known walking in. Terminator 2 is probably my personal favorite example on that one. I'm not going to spoil Terminator 2. All I'm going to say is that the ad campaign for Terminator 2 spoiled Terminator 2, which is a damn shame, because if you actually had the good benefit of walking into Terminator 2 blind, there's a really, really good build-up and payoff walking into Terminator 2 blind, which is why I'm speaking so generically and vaguely about this. It's brilliantly done. It's probably one of the better moments, cinematically speaking, of the entire film. Anyways. So, 2 continuity counters, very quick. Battle with Tyrek. And the Discord window, so they mentioned both of those. We'll jot those down really quick. There we go. And this then leads to something interesting. So we get a lot of very quick and dirty exposition. What I, Yeah, exactly, Lord Harriman. It's just a problem with cultural consciousness in general. There's not really a lot you can do about it. It's how it is, you know? It's one of the reasons why I use my rule, no mentioning. Because there's no spoiling, it was a sled. And then there's no mentioning, where, you know, I'm not going to say, oh my god, there was this part where the sled showed up, and it, like, went Super Saiyan, and the hair started flying out, and it went, like, super blonde. It was blonde, but the blonde hairs had blonde hairs. Oh, it was incredible. Because just mentioning stuff can spoil an experience, even regardless of spoiling a plot twist, right? But I'm getting off topic. We find out that Spoiled Rich is president of the school board. Now, I'm going to be referencing that later, but I wanted to drop that early, because the episode does, and also because it's critical for understanding several aspects of what happened in this episode. Oh, by the way, this is Amy Keating-Rogers, aka the other very consistently good MLP writer. So, lore shock, right? Anywho, this then leads to, you know, you should vote for me, you should vote for me. Silver Spoon tries to help and then gets yelled at. I have a thought on that, but I want to circle back around to that. But I needed to mention it first, because otherwise the later thought wouldn't actually matter. So, moving on. You'll also notice Diamond Tiara's overall strategy for trying to get the others to vote for her is prototypical for what most politicians will use in real life. And I shouldn't say prototypical, that's the wrong phrase. What I mean is it's typical. I don't know why I added the word proto there. It is typical. Rather than saying you should vote for me because, it's you shouldn't vote for the other person because, and then blackmail or bribery. Now, you might think, oh, lore, 2020. No. That's an old problem. That's normal. And it shouldn't be. But I wanted to point that out because it does show her mentality and how she approaches things, which I think is important because, believe it or not, what we're actually doing is we're building the character of Spoiled Rich while we analyze the character of Diamond Tiara. And yes, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon were both basically one-note non-characters, so it is nice to see some actual characterization for them too, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, this is 2015 when this came out. Anywho, so she tries the bribery and the blackmail, and then Silver Spoon jumps into the song to help her. You know, I think you've got a shot at this. All you have to show people is that you care. Diamond Tiara then gets angry and shoots her down immediately. Now, I want to mention that. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, really quick. I wrote down her name. Chantel Strand. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. She's the woman who voices Diamond Tiara. She apparently is a singer and has done several other, you know, song sections of the other works she's done voice acting for. And apparently this was like a big deal for her finally being able to sing in MLP. So I just wanted to comment on that really quick. Because yeah, she's a good singer. Go figure. Anywho, so Silver Spoon tries to help, and Diamond Tiara smacks her down. This is going to sound like the strangest thing I've said today, but I actually get where Diamond Tiara is coming from on this. Don't agree with it, but it's understandable. What she's doing is she's flailing and failing, and so what she does is she's smacking down the only person she can. You'll notice she does it kind of automatically. Like as a reflex, a reactionary kind of a thing. She doesn't mean it. She doesn't. That doesn't excuse it. But a lot of us say things that we don't really mean when we are reflexively reacting in a situation similar thereto. Yeah, like what Spoiled would do. But again, we'll get to that in just a moment. That's an interesting point, Weirdamoth. That's an absolutely valid point. You're right. Because she has been gathering dirt on people for some time, and that is an excellent example of that. I don't know if that counts as a counter, but that is an interesting thing to point out. Anyways, the relevant point here is that that snapback is just, huh? Now, obviously, what she did, you know, her reaction and her stark reaction there, both, as in the fact that she had the reaction and the fact that she was so harsh about it, are both incorrect strategies. She should not have done either of those things. One, because reacting like that in the open pretty much solidified her defeat. You know, because everyone's like, oh, showing her true colors, right? Even though that's not actually true, as this episode shows. But the other thing is, she shouldn't have had the reaction at all. She should have been able to swallow that, because that's a trait we need to learn. I'm willing to forgive that. She's probably about 10. So, this then leads to, let's go through the count. Now, this is the first sign that there's any actual characterization for Diamond Tiara in this episode, really. Everything else is more an advantage of having perspective. But the first time the episode makes it clear that something's going on with her character other than I'm a bully is when the count happens. Now, Cheerilee, well, doesn't jump in to assist in the situation multiple times in this episode, which irritates me. However, it makes perfect sense, horrifically enough. Why? Because spoiled milk is on the board. In fact, she's the president of the board. Gonna keep referencing that, because it keeps being relevant. Anyways, moving on. Cheerilee then is just like, okay, look, no, we don't need to do a recount, we're fine. Oh, I'll be the judge of that. This then leads to her finding out that she only had one vote. Now, I want to mention something here, because this is the interesting part. This is when we get into the nitty-gritty of detailed analysis, because you'll notice she's not surprised she's not surprised that she didn't win. Not really. What she's surprised about is the fact that she didn't get 2 votes. You caught that, right? She's been doing this for a while, and I'm going to circle back around to this. See you around, McDuck. I'm going to circle back around to this later. But she's been doing this whole shtick, as Mommy tells her to, for some time. She's probably pretty used to how things go by now. The fact that she's confused by the fact that she only had 1 vote, well, that's because she expected that despite everything and despite the way things are, at the very least she would have her one ally, her one friend, who would actually be with her in all this. Naturally, Silver Spoon smacks her down hard. She's totally in the right for doing that, by the way, even publicly. And yeah, it says so much. I want you, if you were doing it, that's awesome. But if you ever rewatch these or rewatch this episode, I want you to rewatch that scene where Silver Spoon is laying the smackdown, because I want you to pay attention to Diamond Tiara's face. She's actually hurt and actually surprised. Not in that order. It's actually in the reverse of that order. She is surprised, and then she is hurt. And then she doesn't know how to deal with it. That scream, that frustration, that's beautiful. Because of course she's frustrated. She's doing everything right. She's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing. Why didn't this work out? Why? I thought this was how this worked. I thought this is how I've been taught. Why isn't this working? And of course, now it's not only not working, it's actually the reverse of not working. It's negative working. It's making things worse. Because now she has lost Silver Spoon. And so that scream, credit to the voice actress, that scream says everything it needs to about just how much this is getting to her. And again, characterization. We're finally getting some actual characterization for Diamond Tiara. It's still a little understated, but it's there. So... look at my notes. Now, Chantel Strand, however you pronounce her name, the woman who voices Diamond Tiara, she actually also voices Spoiled Milk. Now, that's probably just your usual voice acting thing, where voice actors, voice multiple roles, but there's a certain irony to the fact that the same actress plays the spoiled, abusive, I'm willing to say that in this case, mother, as well as the daughter, the victim. I don't know how on purpose that was, but it's certainly interesting to think about. So, adult abuse, child abuse, however you want to think of it. When we think of those words, those are dark, ugly, dirty, disgusting words, as they should be, because child abuse should not exist. Just, right? Here's the thing. Child abuse can take many forms, and when we think of that, we probably think of things that are, frankly, much worse than this. But again, this is Equestria. Equestria is not as bad as real life, thank God. However, I wanted to preface with that. Because it goes down. It goes so much more down than this. However, what she is doing is still wrong and terrible and awful. What she is doing is still verbal, emotional abuse. What she is doing is still engendering the frankly wrong attitude, in the wrong mentality, in the wrong way, for her own self-benefit, utilizing her child as a tool for political pursuit, which, funnily enough, is a pretty long-standing tradition here in real life. Although it's kind of started going away, so that's good. That's good. Started going away. We don't have the exact same, literal, I need this child to secure this political arrangement with this. There's a joke on a history YouTube channel I watch where a dad is talking to his kid, and the kid says, "You love me, Dad." Right? The dad says, "Oh, I love my alliance with Spain." And the kid says, "Well, but you love me, right?" "No, I really do love my alliance with Spain." Anyways. History Oversimplified, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite history YouTube channels. I follow like 5, because I love history, and it's, at this point, it's the only way I have time to actually, look into history anymore. Anyways. So, I really do love... I have to joke, because this is a very dark and horrible topic. This is a tactic I use, and I do this on purpose. I try to bring some levity when we talk about horrible, dark, terrible things, because otherwise they stay horrible, dark, and terrible, and that just kind of destroys the mood, and we can't properly discuss and analyze them. We instead just get disgusted and walk away from it. What we see here is the dark side of Rarity. Obviously, Rarity herself is not like this, and indeed never will be. Thank goodness. But, and he says, yeah, that's the one, Lord Herman. Yeah, this is what Rarity could have been like if she was more focused on the aristocracy thing, instead of being a decent person. Yeah, this is basically Rarity going down another path. That's what Spoiled Rich is. Because they're on the same... They have the same general mindset. They're both part of the upper crust of society. They both love the nice, aristocratic, nobility things. It's just Rarity's a decent person, and Spoiled is not. Because Rarity still wants all the things that Spoiled Rich does. It's just she's not willing to be a despicable human being, or pony, in order to get them, in order to do that, right? One of the first rules of friendship is that people are not tools. Go figure. One moment, I need to do something really quick. I can find it, there it is. Yeah, ambition is not evil. It's obvious why we associate evil with ambition and vice versa, but ambition is not actually an evil trait. And funnily enough, this very episode covers that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The abuse here, it's so obvious and self-apparent that once again I feel silly to comment on it. But the most important thing, I think, is that this helps to explain and frame everything that's been going on with Diamond Tiara. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have been told something and taught something. Like, there's a reason we tend to listen to our parents, jokes, memes, and, you know, disobedience aside. There's a reason that, generally speaking, you are going to listen to what your parents says, and you're going to do what they say, because for the majority of your developing years, they are your rock. I remember distinctly the first time I realized my mother could be wrong. How many of you remember that? Or at the very least, remember generally coming to that idea? You may not remember the exact instance like I do, but... because that's what parents function as when it comes to being a human being. They tell you that you might know. That is quite literally how our sentience and sapience develops. Without that external interaction with them, we would not develop. This is what feral children tend to be, right? Exactly, kinetic consular. See, you gotta keep the jokes going for these serious things. But, while that is... so my point in bringing this up, and I know this sounds like a silly thing, but this is why children will automatically lean towards believing their parents. In some cases, even into when they are adults, they still have that automatic, baked-in thing that just sort of assumes and presumes that their parents are right. I know someone, let me give you a small example, no names of course, not even genders, but there's an individual who wanted to do something, doesn't matter what, and did not feel they were adult enough to do it, and thus they were going to defer to their parent. The individual in question was in their 30s. So, Diamond Tiara has naturally and automatically been listening to and doing what she is told. And she's just sort of been going along with it because of course she has. It's her mother. But there's another niggle here. And this is once again the nature of sentience and sapience. External influence shapes who and what we are. I mean, nurture and nature and blah blah blah, but there are other aspects to that. And one of those is how much we see and think about what others are doing. Point in fact, Diamond Tiara sees how, in the literal song, what was the name of that song? It was like this third song here. The Pony I Wanna Be. In the song, they literally show her seeing how other parents interact with their kids. She lives in Ponyville. Happiness and friendship capital, even of Equestria, for God's sakes. Remember the one place where all three totally get along and are totally cool with each other? Right? We've talked about this before. She sees, and she is smart enough to perceive how others are, and that's why she's kind of, And that, in my opinion, I'm sorry for banging on about this point, but this dichotomy between how her mother treats her and how everyone else treats their parents and or children, these two things explain everything about her mentality and her mindset and who and what she is, right here, in my opinion. The way these things two completely bounce off of each other and do not coincide, and the conflict and the aggravation and the frustration and the... all of it explains everything. And she talks about, yeah, the pony she wants to be, the individual that she actually would like to be, and feels that she cannot be. Yeah. For the record, feel that. I feel that. Not that there's anyone else on this planet I want to be, but I get the concept, you know? Maybe Henry Cavill. I'd be okay with that. It's a great song. Once again, I've actually... Oh god, I'm a tank. Whoops, I didn't mean to take this. Sorry, I'm still grinding at F14 in the background here. Anyways, right. Okay, so, yeah, the idea... The idea of her just wanting to be anything other than this thing that she has been forced into by her mother, it says so much, doesn't it? But allow me to talk about her father really quick. This is actually important. Why? Where's the father in all this? Now, let's go ahead and start with the obvious. Is Filthy Rich a decent person? Yeah, we've seen that several times. We'll even see that in the future. He's a cool guy. He's business, but decent. And that is someone who can exist. So, yeah, sure, I'm totally willing to accept that he is business, but decent. There are two big things that I think help to... sorry, but I do want to stress, the first point, before we say anything else about explaining what the hell is going on with Filthy, we do have to make this clear, he is still to blame. This is still, in part, his fault. He is her father, he should be more involved, and he is her husband, and he should be more involved. Period. Now, having said that, there are three other factors here that need to be thought about here. First of all, and you guys have already said it in chat, Filthy Rich is a workaholic. He's probably worse than Rarity. He is constantly pushing his business. And that means he's not really raising the kiddo. And that's a problem. It's entirely possible he is unaware. That does not excuse it, but it does explain it. You know what I mean? Second thing. Now we're getting into something a little more complex than simply not being present. It's entirely possible he is legitimately intimidated by Spoiled, because this is going to sound like a strange statement, but she's the aristocrat, not him. Now, if you don't understand what I mean by that, let me use a parallel here. How many of you have seen DuckTales? Because DuckTales is awesome, and, well, okay, DuckTales can be awesome, but you've probably seen at least a little bit of it in your life. Somewhere? Maybe? No? Okay, maybe not. Scrooge McDuck is not an aristocrat. Rich? Absolutely. Tons of money? Sure. Wealth, influence, power? Uh-huh. But he is not an aristocrat. He is not the upper crust. He is a working class. Yeah, he was born poor, and he clawed his way up by his strength, by his wits, by his intelligence. And that's exactly my point. That is Filthy Rich. He is not part of the upper elite crust. She is. You see where I'm going with this? The idea that the lowborn has to pay attention to the highborn is not exactly a new one. So it's entirely possible, this is speculation, that he defers to her and or is intimidated by her simply because of the fact that she is the senior in the relationship by virtue of blood. This actually ties in neatly to my third theory on the matter, and this is the one I personally hold true. It's kind of based on the previous one. The idea here is that this feels like an arranged marriage. It legitimately feels like Filthy is not in love with her. That he did not choose her because he chose her, but that he married the wealthy, rich elite because that's what you do, either because of his own preconceptions or because that's what his father did, as we will discuss in the future. Filthy Rich's father was also in a similar vein, you know. Now, maybe that's not true. I don't know. It's also worth noting that all three of these possibilities I've mentioned are not mutually exclusive. So it's entirely possible that he, was arranged in a marriage that he didn't really want with someone who's upper nobility, which he defers to, in a situation where he works constantly and therefore is absent. All three of these things can be happening. Once again, does not excuse, but it does explain. So I wanted to pause and talk about that, because Filthy's not even in this episode, which is actually a damn shame. It would be interesting to see where that was going with that, But anyways, by the way, I agree with you, Savacon, but that's just me. We'll talk about social constructs later. Yeah, he has a cameo where he does an eyebrow raise, and that's it. And frankly, based on how that song is framed, I'm pretty sure that's more Diamond Tiara's imagination than actual reality, in my opinion. We've seen Filthy Rich. He's not like that. He's not. We will see Filthy Rich in the future. He's not like that. We'll also technically see him in the past, it occurred to me, because we have the flashback episodes to cover. At least 2 of which that I know are coming up. Yeah, his daughter's running through the town singing, "What is she doing?" Anyways, words. Okay, so having discussed all that, we have a lot to unpack with this episode. It's another reason I like it so much. I'm looking at my notes. Here we go. This then leads to... So we've talked about the adult abuse. We've talked about the child abuse. Yep. Let's move on to talk about one of the interesting things about Diamond Tiara in the episode proper. Is when the Cutie Mark Crusaders approach her. Remember I mentioned that dichotomy? What she sees in others immediately alongside what she is told? That dichotomy is shown on camera because the Cutie Mark Crusaders approach her. And she bounces back and forth between, you know, decency and and she does it while bouncing back and forth between having a sarcastic, sardonic, toxic, you know, toxic's the bad word, or a bad word. Let me try another word. She does it while having that, you know, that just sort of sniveling tone. Of course I know this. Why wouldn't I know that? You know, that kind of a thing she has going for her. There we go. And so but she mostly says the truth in the scene. That's the really messed up part, and that's the part that really makes it horrific, is that she's actually speaking truthfully about how much this whole situation's bugging her and how much it's getting to her. And then she is directly confronted by how much it's bothering her and how much it's getting to her. And then she immediately twists it around and starts being all sarcastic about it, even though it is actually getting to her in the aforementioned manner. Also, I would be remiss if I did not point out, the episode in which the cutie marks were introduced, kind of, there's actually an asterisk attached to that because they were technically in the first episode as part of an animation error, but let's not get into that right now. The episode in which the cutie marks were properly introduced was Diamond Tiara's Quinceañera. You remember that? And that in that episode, they made a point of, you know, you don't understand, just because you have your cutie mark, you don't understand. They can figure out what they still want to be, and they can go out and explore and learn and grow, and they have their whole lives looking forward to it. They could be anything. Potential. It's awesome. Diamond Tiara, almost verbatim, or verbatim, however you're supposed to pronounce that, says the same things to them, to their faces in this episode. That's some good bookending right there, if I might be so bold. I know we've talked about bookending recently, but that's good bookending right there. Holy crap. This then leads to her mentioning several things. First of all, you don't know what it feels like being stuck with something you don't understand. Relatable. As I've said many, many, many times, and the more I talk about cutie marks and the nature of what I call the pattern, the more I am convinced that I am right. And even if I'm not, well, then I'm just going to rewrite it in my head. Headcanon! But in all seriousness, though, the pattern and the way it works is clearly more about who you are, not who you must be. I've talked about this since the very first episode when we first started talking about cutie marks. And this is reinforced in this very episode as she mentions, not that she is not who she shouldn't be. I'm saying this wrong. She's not saying, I don't like my cutie mark. She's not saying, I don't like my position in the pattern. She's saying, I don't understand my positioning in the pattern. She's saying, I don't understand what to do with this thing. What's the purpose behind it? How am I supposed to use it? I'm good at getting other people to listen to me. That's actually been shown in previous episodes, although it's very overt here. But the fact that she's flat out admitting, I know who I am, but I don't know how I fit, that is interesting. And perfectly fits with my aforementioned theories about what cutie marks are and what the pattern is. So, I like it for 2 reasons. Then she flat out admits... Yeah, exactly, Sean. Good quote, too. That she flat out admits that she needs help. It's worth noting, and I pointed this out earlier when it came up, the cutie mark Crusaders have already been actually employing their cutie mark prior to now. They've already been doing things such as, you know, hey, This is who you are. This is who you can. This is how you should look at your cutie mark. This is a different way to approach it. Just to name one example off the top of my head, this came up when it came to Trouble Shoes rather recently. Remember him? The big old Clydesdale? The idea of, you're looking at it the wrong way. This is you, but this is how you can be, right? So I'm just pointing this out because this didn't come out of nowhere. Yeah, they didn't realize it at the time, but this didn't come out of nowhere. They have already been fulfilling their role that they chose. You see my point? They walked into that without even really meaning to, by virtue of choice, by virtue of deciding, thanks to action, and consistent action, I might add, that this is who they were. Cutie mark. So she is like, help! I don't know who or what. And so naturally they jump in and they try to start talking through her. This is when the episode decides to interrupt really quick. Pipsqueak jumps in. Pipsqueak jumps in. Now, when Pipsqueak jumps in, he ruins the moment, but he does something, and I would give the episode a positive for this if I was rating this. He says, "Oh my God, I was just there, and the board said there's no funding for repairing the recess thing." Yes, there is. There absolutely is the funding for that. You remember how I keep bringing up who's on the board? Who's the president of the school board? In fact, to further emphasize this point, when they get to the schoolhouse, guess who's at the school right now and flat out says, "Oh, hey, I just got out of a board meeting." We know exactly who vetoed the idea of getting those funds for the recess equipment. They don't have to say it, because they effectively do. That's some good writing right there. That is how you imply something like that. And of course, this then immediately leads to my favorite song probably in the whole show, if I'm being honest. This is not the answer. You can redeem yourself by helping others, not by being mean. We know you want friends who admire you. You want to be the star with all the power too, but there's a better way. Remember, ambition isn't the problem. We talked about that earlier. You caught that, right? Because I emphasized that for a good reason. Ambition isn't the issue. There's nothing wrong with being a Star Destroyer. To completely flip what I've been talking about for the last week solid as we've been reviewing FF14, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a Star Destroyer. It's just there's also nothing wrong with wanting to be a shuttle. And that's the whole point. Diamond Tiara wants to be a Star Destroyer. And you'll notice this episode does a brilliant job of showing how the exact same information and resources that she had at her disposal, she can immediately switch around. Exactly, Bro Star Trek. Immediately switch around to accomplish completely different ends. The episode makes it very clear, very, very clear that she is. It's almost too obvious, if I'm being honest. It's making it very clear that her knowledge of all that blackmail material just gives her information that she can use at disposal, right? Okay, you're good at this. I was going to make fun of you for it, but now instead, why don't you use it to help us with this instead? Forgive me for banging on this point. Power is a tool. Power is nothing more or less. I don't have a tool at my desk right now. You know what? I'll use this as an example. Than this. How you utilize this is everything. That's not true, because why you utilize it is important as well, because nothing is that simple. But you get my point. This is not evil. It's a knife. Now, I could use this to open a box. I could use this to cut some cable ties. I could use this to slit a throat. I could use this to hurt some poor helpless animal. There's a gamut here. Power is a tool. And this episode makes it very clear that Diamond Tiara can utilize her tools in whatever manner she is predisposed thereto. And yeah, I love that Weird Moth. It's such a good song. So, there is so much more still left to learn about yourself. See the light that shines in you. We know you can be somebody else. You can stop right now and try another start. You'll finally free yourself of the dark and see the light of your cutie mark. That scene is brilliance. I'm sorry. The way they sing, the lyrics, the significance of it, the impact, the relevance. I know adults who need to hear that message and to understand, to comprehend it. I know people who need that lesson now. Never mind someone when you're, a 10-year-old or whatever. Yeah, I noticed the school was the bad path, haha. Of course, what's really appropriate about that, if you're paying attention, is that they were wrong. The framing of that, of her going down the bad path, was wrong. It's just how you use it. Because she always wanted to be someone else. And you notice how much happier she is afterwards. The only thing approaching a flaw in this episode is it seems like her shift from, bully to non-bully is like that. But upon analysis, that doesn't bother me as much, because it makes perfect sense, because she never wanted to be the former. And she always was the latter. So now she can stretch, to use a metaphor. And so she stretches. And she immediately runs around, and she's just so happy to finally be moving her legs. God, she's been sitting here scrunched up in this position for hours. And now finally, she can actually get up and move. I know exactly what that feels like, literally as well as metaphorically. And yeah, she needed the validation, exactly. She needed to understand that she doesn't have to do what her mother tells her. Interesting point of note that she specifically does not ask her mother for the money, by the way. Did you catch that? Another subtle point. It once again emphasizes that while he's the money, she's the aristocrat, because the two are not always one and the same. Thus, she asks her mother to ask her father for the money. Yeah. She did, however, tell her mother to shut the hell up. What's really sad, though, and this kind of ties into how, this is equestrian, not everyone's truly terrible. Exactly, Raskor. Did you notice that when she says to her mother, I'm going to have something that you've never had, friends, her mother's reaction was not anger or violence or outbreak, it was hurt. Interesting, isn't it? Truth hurts. Not always, sometimes. Stabby truth tends to hurt. I'm looking at my notes here. That's true, Saviko. That's true. I agree. It would be nice to see more about spoiled milk in the future. Yeah, no kidding, Weirdo Moth. That's the other thing about Filthy Rich. This is where he differs from Scrooge. He's actually quite giving with his money. Whenever Filthy Rich is called upon to provide for something financially, he's like, yeah, sure. Chakong! Right? That's actually happened several times, and I'm pretty sure it'll happen at least one more time in the future. In a flashback, I think, but still. So yeah, he's asked for the money. Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Chakong! And yeah, he ponies up. No pun intended. Then the episode ends. Oh wait, no, actually, then they get their cutie marks. It's actually funny how them getting their cutie marks is such a minor footnote to an otherwise excellent episode. But they do a good job with it. They spend their time on it. The big sisters, all three big sisters, join in for the final song. They talk about the path they've been on this whole time. It's good stuff. I'm not trying to be dismissive. Oh yes, it's also the first time, and I've been paying attention, it's the first time they flat out say on camera that their parents are dead. It's something that's been implied ever since the beginning. If you remember, Lauren Faust herself has said that was always her intent, but it was never confirmed on camera. So this is the first time she flat out says, if mom, I wrote it down, if mom and dad were here, they would have been so proud of you. Right there. Bam. Yeah, very emotional episode. Very, very, very good stuff. Good lessons, good continuity, good usage of characterization, good songs. This is a purple. This is a very... This is still one of my favorite episodes, absolutely, of the franchise, bar none. They do so much good here. We also get a new photo right at the end. 5th anniversary. Woo! Am I a gunbreaker? I need to not be a gunbreaker. I'll be... let's be a dancer, sure. Even the princesses know. I don't actually have much else to share. I mean, there's the fact that they get, you know, the cutie marks actually happen, and there's this big magical show that happens. And it makes me wonder if that happens every time someone gets a cutie mark, or if it's just the unique circumstances of 3 people getting their cutie mark at the same time. If I could say one last thing, I've had a theory. I've had the theory about the harmony, the harmonic resonance, the pattern, for years. As we've been going through analyzing the series, I've kind of developed a attached theory. And that attached theory is the idea that the pattern is, for lack of a better way to put it, spreading. That mathematical coincidence is leading itself towards further how do I word this? In real life, social constructs follow patterns. This is a measurable thing. Anybody who's studied social or cultural science knows what I'm talking about, and could probably talk about it a lot better than I can, but I'm going to try to bumble through here. People follow fairly predictable patterns when you zoom the camera out. Individuals don't, and individuals can interrupt history, but groups tend to follow norms, right? And these norms, over time, sift, not thanks to any external influence or any kind of thing, but simply by the nature of how they interact with each other, until more common patterns slowly form amongst how we interact with each other, right? So what I'm trying to get at is, I get the feeling that basically ever since Ponyville was founded, I think that's the apex point here that I'm pointing to. Ever since Ponyville was founded, I think that they've been getting more, that the pattern has been spreading. Because that was the critical mass, basically. That there's enough people who are themselves to each other, that they are now doing what they would do to each other, which is allowing others to see how they interact with each other, which is allowing others to then further interact. And you see how it just kind of spreads at that point. This is why I'm using incorrect terminology because I'm an idiot, but I hope you at least understand what I'm saying here. If I am kind to you, and you are kind to your friend, and then we are kind to each other, and then they are kind to their friend, and then they're... You get it. It's not literally spreading so much as other people... It's not like a physical creeping thing that's moving. It's more like more people are more likely to follow this pattern, because other people are now following this pattern. Hence, critical mass. And that's true, the pattern absolutely works with more than just ponies. Thankfully, we will see more of that in the future as well. Sorry. Nowadays, when I have an itch, I just use the brush, because this way I can brush the beard while also itching the skin underneath. You ever grow a beard? I'm sure Savicom knows exactly what I'm talking about. And you kind of, over time, you know, your skin feels weird because there's stuff there you're not used to feeling, and so I'm still having the occasional itch or scratch or whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna talk. But yeah, ponies working together is working, and it's spreading because it's working. Right? Anyways, I just wanted to comment on that because I think it's immediately relevant, because I think that this will not be the last time, in universe, if not on camera, multiple ponies get their cutie marks simultaneously in conjunction with each other, right? Because it's not just the fact that several ponies got their cutie mark at the same time. Their cutie marks were relevant to each other. They were part of each other's cutie mark. And this is what I mean when I say the pattern is spreading. I feel like that is a direct consequence of that. Hey, Steve Nellis. We're actually just wrapping up. We're at the very end of our third podcast for the day. Don't worry, we have a fourth podcast today. I've confirmed it several times with Lore Reloaded. That'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I think it would be cool if that's the kind of thing that happens, probably off camera in the future. So yeah, this is a purple episode, but I gotta be honest, I like to do a wrap-up thing later, and I'd still like to do that later. You know, analyze all the episodes side by side. But I gotta say, if you asked me right now, I think this one does crawl above the rest. It does basically everything I like. You know, continuity, character-focused stuff, logical consequence storytelling, world building. You know, it does a lot right. And it's got the emotional impact, the good music, and the excellent visual presentation on top of everything else. And it's a story that I think is immediately and demonstrably relevant, not only for children, but also for adults. It hits pretty much every point on the markers, is what I'm trying to say. So, as of right now, I would be willing to say this is my favorite episode. But one way or another, it's definitely getting... This is Amy Keating Rogers' first purple episode, I just noticed that. Honestly, the only negatives I could talk myself out of. So... no? It's actually funny. Amy Keating Rogers has a lot of red, but like I said, this is her first purple. First one she's managed. I'm impressed. Good damn episode. Good damn episode. I needed this today because this week has been just a non-stop frustration farm. Between the doctor's visit, let me chop off the local recording really quick.